what's going on, sweethearts? You will like, you will subscribe, you will comment, and you will share with all your friends, family, and everyone you know about God Dog.
Tonight's video is going to be about silver and silver's dangers, the danger of investing in silver, and kind of go over like a little bit of a silver update and what I've done. So I've been around investing in silver for over 15 years. You know, I've been like looking at it for like 15 to 18 years, and I've been invested in it. You know, I started around 2008. So that's like almost 20 years. In a couple of years will be 20 years of investing in silver. And I've had silver all the time, right? The most silver I've ever had was, you know, like over 5,000 ounces. And the least amount of silver I've ever had was a couple thousand ounces. So I got into silver investing and I got into stacking. And I got into it because of the 2008 collapse where they bailed the banks out, right? And I lost a bunch of money in the stock market. And, you know, I panic sold at the bottom because I thought the whole world was going to burn down. And then, you know, they bailed out all the banks and they bailed out everybody's bad investments, you know, and I just was disenfranchised by it all and angry, right? And that's why I kind of got into silver. And when I first got into silver, I read and I consumed as much information about silver stacking, silver as a resource, silver this, silver that. I listened to everybody. I listened to the Mike Baloney's of the world. I listened to the, you know, Ted Butler. He's not alive anymore, but, you know, people that have been around in the silver world for a while know who I'm talking about, you know. Like, all the people in the silver community, all these experts, David Morgan, all these guys I listen to, right? I even kind of listened to Max Kaiser with his whole, you know, JP Morgan, you know, buy silver, you know, JP Morgan, crash JP Morgan, make silver go up to 500 or whatever, all that stuff. I remember all that stuff. And I remember when silver went from like $8 to 50, right? And I was there all along and I had bought a ton of silver, a ton, you know, $12, $15 range, right? And I saw it run all over up to 50. And when that happened, I saw backwardation, you know, failure to deliver in the COMEX. We're going to crash the COMEX, you know, the LBMA is out of silver. There's only 1 billion ounces of above ground silver. You know, that was a lie of the community, the silver community of my time. I don't really follow the silver community now, like here and there, you know, but I don't really like watch all their videos like I used to. But every single person on YouTube, when I first got into silver, were regurgitating the same crap, that there was only 1 billion ounces of above ground silver. And I remember thinking to myself, that sounds a little light. There can't be just 1 billion ounces, you know, all of mankind, all the silverware, all the, you know, all the sterling silver, all the silver eagles. And so just for my own knowledge, when I heard that, I decided back then to look at how many U.S. silver eagles were minted since they started minting. And it was almost 1 billion ounces. You know, it was like 700 and something million ounces back then. This was almost 20 years ago, right? Like, you know, or at least 15 years ago, I found this out. So I'm like, if there's 750 million, probably over 1 billion silver eagles now, then, you know, there's way over 1 billion ounces above ground. I hear 3 billion now, but I think it's more than that. I think it could be upwards of 15 billion ounces, right? Because we ran surpluses for so many years, right? The silver, you know, the film industry used to take a lot of silver, but then film went away and it all went to digital, and the demand for silver in industrial dropped through the floor for a long time. Now it's back now, right? It's back now, but still, I saw all this stuff about silver is going to explode because there's not enough of it, right? And I learned the hard way that that wasn't true, as I did sell some in the 30s and 40s, right? In the high 40s, and I traded in and out. I even bought it back in like the low 30s, and I bought some more in the 20s and some more in 2014 at like 16 or whatever at the bottom. But one thing I've learned about silver is there's nothing that's going to make it go through the moon. And let me tell you why. Like, do I believe silver should be $200 an ounce right now based on the performance of gold and inflation? Yes, I do believe that, right? Do I believe that silver is going to 200 anytime soon? And I'm talking years? No, I don't, right? I don't. You just saw it again as silver exploded up over $50 to $54 an ounce. And you heard the same exact arguments by the same people in the silver community as last time. Backwardation, failure to deliver. The LMA is, got a crisis and shortage in silver, right? And they did exactly what they always do when the price of silver goes through the moon. They raise margin requirements 30, 50, 100%, right? They have all kinds of mechanisms to make people sell, right? Make people stop hedging. That's one thing. You saw in the silver community, I don't know if you saw all these reports that dealers stopped taking silver, right? What we've heard from years is stack. If you don't own it, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. You need the physical. But then when you try to sell the physical to these dealers who sold it to you, they don't want it back because the refiners weren't taking it. And the refiners weren't taking it because they were overwhelmed with silver and they were just trying to melt down 999 stuff so they could make 1,000-ounce bars from the comments, and they were backed up. Well, how does a refiner get backed up with silver? People selling it in the market, right? They're selling it in the market. And if people are selling tons of silver in the market so much that they're melting them down, making 1,000-ounce bars for the COMEX, you can be rest assured the price is not going to continue to go up for very long, right? If you hear the words backwardation in the silver market, it's about to go down. I'm telling you, right? This is years and years of being invested and watching the silver market. This is what happens, right? Anytime you see shortage, LBMA, this and that, they have a vested, and I want to say I'm talking about governments. Governments have a vested interest in not allowing silver to run through, go to the moon. And it's because, for example, the U.S. just added to its critical minerals list, right? Well, if it's a critical mineral, they have every mechanism in the world to suppress the price, right? Because we have no free market in precious metals. You got the paper market and it dictates price, right? So whoever's got the money, governments, whatever, whoever makes the rules, whoever's making margin requirements, whoever's doing all these things, right? They can control the price. So if it gets out of hand, they slam it down every single time, and there's not going to be no end to that, right? Until maybe a currency collapse, but there's not going to be any end to it. So I'm not saying silver's a bad investment. I'm just saying be careful, right? Don't put all your money into it, right? You're better off buying the S&P. You're better off getting producing companies than just sitting on something and hoping that in a suppressed market with people like changing rules midstream, if the price is going too fast, too high, Do you really want to sink all your money into that? Is silver really the best investment when it's got all these mechanisms? Another thing I heard during this whole thing is I don't know too much about SD Bullion. I'm not going to say anything bad about them. I don't know. But what I did see is some podcast on SD Bullion, right? Where they say that they don't hedge, right? That they don't hedge. Right? There's a huge silver dealer that wants you to deal with them, and they don't hedge. And I'm just thinking to myself, Tolavine, right? Tolavine. Let me tell you guys, those that have dealt with physical silver know it's hard to deal with, right? And if you want to get the best prices, you have to deal with online dealers most of the time. I sold 25% of my silver to APMEX, and they gave me $49.80, right? Because I wasn't going to watch it go down again. I wasn't going to watch it hit 50, go down to 15 again. I don't think it would, but wait another 10 years for it to get back to 50. No, I'm going to be smart. I took 25% off the table at like 175% profit, and I'm going to keep the rest. But I sold it to APMEX, and I sent it registered mail, and they still hadn't checked it in. I'll get my money. But it's really hair-raising when you do this, because I think it was 2011, I bought a bunch of silver, and I'll say $40,000 worth of silver, from Tolavine Company, right? And I had done gold and silver purchases, and had done gold and silver swaps. I had sold to them. I'd bought from them. I'd used them. They had a good reputation when I was dealing with them, and I never had any problem with it. But I bought $40,000 silver, and it's supposed to be, always got there in my door in 5 days or whatever. They sent it Lloyd's of London, like 2-day air, and you'd always get it within a few days. And I waited like 6 weeks. And they were giving me every excuse in the book on why, it's going to be this. And I finally got my silver like 8.5 weeks later. And it made my heart hurt so bad. Like I was so nervous. They had $41,000 worth of my money. And, I had to wait 8 weeks to get my silver, that I never did any more business with them. And shortly after, people like me stopped getting their silver. Very shortly after, they were taking people's money and not delivering silver, right? And the company went bankrupt, and millions of dollars were owed to the people who dealt with them. So what I'm telling you about silver is, can you make money in it? Yes. Is it probably better to hold physical than buying an ETF? Yes, because all the maintenance costs and everything on the ETFs ate away at your profits, right? But is silver just the greatest investment at all time that you should stack up the world and not be a little bit concerned of not getting your money, or not being able to sell, or them not selling, them not taking your silver because dealer stops taking it, or they're not hedged like SD Bullion, and the price goes way up and they end up buying a bunch at a high price, and then it comes slamming to the floor to the 30s, and they lose lots of money, which is what happened to Tolavine, right? That's exactly what happened to Tolavine. And if you're not hedged, you're not going to be you're not going to be around very long in the silver industry and the silver business. So, I'm always nervous. Like I sold a monster box of Florida Everglade, America the Beautiful, and I think I paid like $17 a piece for them, but I got $49.80. But I still haven't been paid. I will be paid. It got there today. It takes them a while to check it in. They got to wire the money. I will get paid unless they're going to go out of business. But it's always nerve-wracking, right? And the reason why I didn't go to a local coin gear, I call up Nevada Coin over here, right ever, and they were giving melt for ATBs. They were giving melt for ATBs. I got almost $3 an ounce over spot when I sold it to APMEX. So You know, that's a lot of money on a mountain bike. That's $1,500, you know, and it only costs, you know, 150, 180 to ship it. So yeah, but you're always, you know, they got your silver, you got to get it to them, and then you got to hope that they wire you the money, right? And I hope that they're big. I think APMEX is a pretty big outfit, you know, but who knows? Who knows? So anyway, I don't want this video to be way long, but I want to talk to you guys about being very real about silver, being careful about silver, and not under any circumstances believe in the hype of all these guys telling you it's going to go to the moon. Because I'm telling you, silver may rise. We may hit 60. We may hit 65. We may even hit 100, right? It's not getting there anytime soon, and it's not going to explode through the roof and hit 200 in the next few months. It's just not going to happen. Peace.